Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the last thing standing between you and lunch, and I know what's more important, so I'm going to whiz through this. I'm not going to make a presentation. I'm going to build on what my fellow panel members have been talking about, integrating better ways of dealing with CSR and sustainability within organizations as a way of expanding horizons. And as the moderator asked, what perspective are you coming at this from? I'd like to share some insights with you about a relatively new perspective or framework by which the private sector can be harnessed and contribute to, I suppose, sustainable objectives and a more enlightened bottom line. And this is what's colloquially referred to as business and human rights. So that phrase, business and human rights, is something you're going to hear about lots more. Already, companies in the CSR and sustainability space are dabbling with business and human rights. The GRI indicators have a section on human rights. A lot of social impacts, environmental impacts can reach human rights. So where does this business and human rights framework come from? In 2011, the United Nations passed a set of guidelines addressing businesses. It provides for standards and detailed guidance for any business in any sector, in any country, that must be complied with. These guidelines were adopted unanimously by the UN. And one thing we know about the UN is that it rarely acts unanimously, but when it does, when countries like China, Russia, Indonesia, Iran, South Africa, Brazil, the US, Western Europe, and Australia can agree on something that is powerful and that is here to stay. So what do these guidelines require of business? In the interests of time, I'm going to highlight three key requirements. One, that companies must have a human rights policy. Essentially, this policy is one that has as a minimum the respect for all of the internationally recognized human rights. Two, companies must undertake human rights due diligence. This means undertaking a risk analysis, auditing sensitive human rights issues within the organization, monitoring those impacts, and reporting those impacts. And finally, the third thing is to have a remedial system. That's essentially a complaints handling mechanism and grievance processes which are fair and which are aligned with human rights principles. In doing all of this, there's an expectation that there's significant consultation and collaboration with the community and civil society. So why is this happening, and why is this a good thing to do? The answers are often similar to what conventional CSR and sustainability initiatives require. Businesses are engaging with this. If you look at the top 500 companies, let's say on the Forbes list, or if you look at the top 100 companies in any stock exchange, they will have started making moves towards engaging with these 2011 guidelines. It's, of course, the right thing to do. Because now there are a set of global guidelines mandating this. Importantly, community and civil society expect and will increasingly expect companies to engage with this, and have already started monitoring corporate compliance against these guidelines. And finally, I suppose governments may opt to regulate if it finds that businesses are not filling in this, coming into this voluntarily, or if there are significant harms that continue as a result of private sector oversight. So how then does this framework, I suppose, expand on conventional CSR and conventional sustainability? I suppose fundamentally what it does is it puts human beings at the center of the corporate inquiry. And that's quite a paradigm shift from, I suppose, first generation approaches to CSR and sustainability. It makes inquiries about harm to human beings, impacts on human beings as a result of corporate behavior, the central inquiry. Then if you look at the content of human rights, rights to education, rights to health, rights to privacy, rights to land, and these rights exceed about, in number about 100. If you look at each of these rights, they have significant content that have to be respected, and they are capable of reaching many aspects of life. So from a corporate point of view, there is significant room, opportunity, and risk in managing these impacts.